Sure. Well, actually, all I want to do is talk about what we do and what we have done because of COVID. The Museum of Natural Science had 70,000 people a year going through portable domes. And we had four dome systems traveling. You could have a 5, a 6, a 7, even a 4-meter dome. And it was just it was a great revenue stream. More than that, it was a wonderful way to reach a lot of people. Then COVID hit and nobody wanted a dome. And so this is sort of what we did instead. We took our main program that we were doing with kids, and we reached 13,000 kids in the Houston Independent School District last year virtually. And we took, if you saw Pat's pictures, the way she warped the images, we used that so that we had the kids who were at home or in school feeling like they were in the dome. And we're still doing that this year. Our big problem this year is the buses. You can come to the museum if you can get the kids to the museum, and you can't get the kids to the museum because of the buses, because you can't put 2 classes in the same bus, and then the bus cost goes off through the ceiling. What we are doing now, trying to get the dome back, but that's a whole bunch of stories. At any rate, you can get an idea of all of the stuff we travel. I mean, if there's a show, anytime I book a show for our main theater, I say, oh, and we like to travel it in the portables, is that okay? And I get a perpetual license for the portables. And we have young audience in the space flight social studies. This was the brochure in 2019, before life took a downturn for us. But you get an idea of all the kind of things we could do. And it's been a wonderful program, and we're determined to get it all back slowly but surely. So I wanted to show that first to give you an idea. Now, a problem with the dome, of course, is the enclosure. People were very afraid, still are somewhat, to be inside anything because of COVID. So what we did was invent something else. This is take your dome, tilt it up 45 degrees and call it a dish. And so this was the Discovery dish. You can get an idea of how the dish works. The screen is sucked up, it's negative pressure screen, and you then project onto it to the dish some way or another. You have a fan, that's a small fan that runs very quiet. And you can see how we started this program with the dish. And we were trying to figure out the best way, put a few chairs in as we were playing around. That, just to mention what it is, that's a Newtonian. And it's a mirror on the other side. You can see the secondary mirror there. The projector's underneath, and it goes up, hits that, and then hits the dome. And we can cover the dome that way. You can also tilt a fisheye into the dome. It doesn't matter which way you do it. The third way is you can actually come under the dish and hit the mirror directly, so you don't have the secondary at all. And if you're limited by the brightness of your projector, that's often a better way to go. The one thing about a dish that's important is you've got to have a pretty bright projector, because if you think about it, you're looking at in a light environment. And I'll show you several ways when we took it to schools to get an idea of what the dish did. Now I want to turn on sound for just a minute, because we made a promotion to sell the dish, and it'll give you an idea.
Houston Museum of Natural Science's brand new Discovery dish, making the immersive Burke-Baker Planetarium experience portable and COVID safe. Unlike the Discovery Dome's enclosed hemisphere, the dish allows us to socially distance our audience members in a well-ventilated space. It still allows us to present our entire catalog of shows with selections appropriate to ages from preschool through high school, and even adults. And the re-engineered projection surface results in a brighter, sharper image than ever before. In honor of the 2021 landing of NASA's Perseverance rover and Ingenuity helicopter, we have produced new shows which will bring the experience to you. Each audience member will sit on one of the foam squares which you see in the foreground. As long as they remain on the square, proper social distancing is guaranteed. We can accommodate an entire class for each presentation. We can present a new show every half hour. You can book a half-day, full-day, or extended day visit, reaching from 5 to 13 classes. To bring the Discovery Dish to your school or organization, all we need is a large, well-ventilated space with a 12-foot ceiling and one 110-volt electrical outlet. Book the interactive, immersive Discovery Dish now and bring the adventure of the Perseverance rover and Ingenuity helicopter to your students.
So the key to this, now this is an interesting graph picture here of the dish. We can get a pretty good grid in it. So we ended up using, you can use Media Show with a warped image. We were using here, because of the strength of the warp, we used Digistar as our software, and adjusted to get the warp of the image, so that for the warp of a fisheye image, so that it would look right. The squares turned out to be a lot of fun. We take them with us and just throw them out. And we let the school somewhat decide how close the kids can be, but it does separate them. And in some places, this is very, very important. And you can see how there they are, the kids sitting on their own square, and they're pretty happy to sit on their own square. You recognize some of our favorite videos this way. The bigger the room, the better it is. And what's surprising, let me pause again. What's surprising is how far away you can be from that dish and still enjoy it. You're not immersed like you are in a dome, but the immersion is real. And you can see in this image, now that's a star field image through the dish, and you can see it. And that room was incredibly bright. So bright projector is also important. That's James Wooten answering questions from kids. So it is an alternative, and we dropped down to maybe a fourth of our audience, maybe even a fifth, but at least we found out. Now this summer, we did this, and once again, we're inside the museum. We put the dish in the museum and mounted it in an enclosed area and offered a program for T-Rex week. And we even used some footage from open space. That's an open space piece there. We even, because I see Mike is online, we even offered some where we flew into the moon, and we could do this on a dish as well. So if you're looking for an alternative while you're waiting to be able to go take your domes out, we have found the dish to work much better than we ever expected. And it's good. I'll tell you what it's good for. More than anything else, it's good for audiences that don't know each other. If you have a class of kids, you can put them in a dome, because you can make the, I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. You can make the dome as safe as it would be in the kids in the classroom. If you have a heterogeneous group of people, you can't put them together. It's like the problem with putting them on the bus and keep them safe. So this allows us to, and these people were all a family that would sit close together, or they spread apart. Otherwise, people know how to do that now. But the dish is great for like family nights, open places where you've got a lot of people coming through that would be watching it. It would not necessarily be the same group. At any rate, this is what the dish did. And the dish, and the other thing about the dish, it shows exactly the same content. So if you're selling your content, and come see, this is from the old erstwhile ride, come see the particular show, then it'll show on either one, and you can switch out almost if you knew which one to take, you can switch out almost instantaneously. So in this program at the museum, we had 193 presentations in 10 days and saw 2,200 people. So it worked out pretty well. Now I'm going to stop sharing, come back. So a dish is an alternative, and you might come up with your own different designs for them. The advantage of the particular dish we have is that it is portable. Not as portable as a dome, but it is portable. Well, anyway, we've done homework now on the dome, and we're ready to launch the dome again. Okay, now this has Pat in it. Everybody, can you find Pat in the picture? She was down in South Texas with a dome and a few kids, and she gave us the inspiration for, hey, we can make this work. So let me, and this really, I'm going to narrate this one. We play. So the trick of the dome is the fan. We bought an enormously powerful fan. We can inflate the dome and completely change out the air in every minute. So that means in that dome, we're getting new air exchanged out every minute. And our air comes in from the back and it blows across the audience, which is facing the other way, which is important. Goes across the back of the audience and comes out through the other side. And so we have the vents. When the dome inflates, the vents appear to take the air back out again. So we tested it, but that still limits us to one class in that dome at a time. Those kids, if you think about the kids in the classroom, what are they doing in the classroom to be COVID safe? We are trying to imitate the classroom. So we can tell a teacher, we're only going to take one class at a time, and we can take up to 25 kids. In Texas, the class size is 22, so that works out really well. And they will be, that's how you seat them, by the way. Now you'd have to do it, we are unidirectional with a mirror in the back. So you can arrange them like this. Now, if any of them are like, I'm going to show you a little bit of some families coming in. It's a 6-meter dome, is actually quite huge along the perimeter. And you can put the squares down to tell them how far apart to sit. You can have them stick their arms out from each other. But once again, they are a class of kids that's in the same class all day long. So you feel a little bit more safe about that as well. We do have our operators, by the way, this is what our mirror system does look like. We do have our operators in the back and the air blows over them. Now, we use this UV light between shows. So for 5 to 10 minutes between the shows, while you're orienting a new group, you're running the lamp. And that lamp is then cleaning out the dome, anything that residually could be COVID or whatever left over. And so, and then you bring in another class. And once again, you're keeping the classes safe. These are videos from inside the dome of all the kind of shows we show. And I think the important thing here is, because of the buses, they can't get the kids to the museum, to our planetarium. So we're looking at this as an important way of bringing every show we show. If you want to see it at Burke Planetarium and you can't come, then we can bring the dish out. And it's a little bit slow. We're going to do one kid at a time. We can bring the dish out and immerse you just as we would if we were actually in the big planetarium. So, and we made these videos from the dome. We can do stars, we can do constant, just as you do them in promoting it. But I think the trick here is to figure out how to keep these kids separated, how to keep them safe, and how to make it something that's that works. And our biggest problem is also how to convince, we're working with a principal right now, and she's just not quite sure it's as safe as her kids being in a classroom. And I think that's what we have to do. Here's some families lining up to go in. But you see how, if this is, so the family group is together because they're a family. If you're doing families, you can actually get a lot more people in. But the trick is to figure out how to space the people, how to realize you've got one group and go from there. And I am through. And we're slowly coming back. We're bringing back staff, and we're slowly getting the bookings that we'd hoped to get all along.
Great. It's good to hear about people coming back. And I think that's been true of domes around the world. It's definitely reassuring. So congratulations on figuring out how to keep them engaged during a downtime. Oh, we did have a couple of questions. How much noise from the bigger fan was one that I saw. But why don't you start with that one and I'll find the other one that I saw.
Well, the fan is noisy, and it's not, you can play with them, and don't get one that's slightly out of balance because they're really noisy. But we use carpet blowers, and we did a lot of investigating of the fan, and the fan is outside of the dome, which helps. And we play the show loud too, but it's not been a problem. No one has complained about the fan sound because, as I say, the fan, and we use a pretty long tube going in. But the important thing was we started slowing down the fan during the programs, and we decided, no, we just keep it blowing. because people are scared, people are worried, people are afraid. Let's make it as safe as we possibly can. And thus far, that's worked.
Yeah, we normally turn the fans down in the presentation, as Carolyn mentioned, but because of COVID and because we really want to keep that airflow going, we're leaving them on high for this pandemic, but we're going to go back to turning them back down when they're done. You can insulate them with boxes and baffles and things, but we generally don't find that's really required.
Pain to carry it with you too, unless you want to use some of your mats. A negative pressure dome is tricky. We do a negative pressure dish to pull the dome up, but the positive pressure domes are better in the sense that they move the air through, because that's what's holding up the dome. So I think that's how we balance between the two.
All right, I found the question I was thinking of, but Pat already answered it. It was about the ceiling height requirements. So you could find that in the chat. And then Daphne had asked about, is there a link to order the fan for our existing dome? So thank you, Krista, for the help with that too.
I think as far as it goes, we just did consumer research, and look at the same time I'm trying to get the Burke-Baker Planetarium up to. It's turned out that we spent a tremendous amount of time treating the surfaces. We should have been treating the air, and so we're working with the planetarium, the big planetarium, increasing the fan speeds, the air turnover speeds there as well, and looking at treatments for the air that goes through the planetarium. So, and they have now very nice formulas that drive you crazy that will tell you exactly how many bodies can sit in that theater for how long with that kind of air. And so we just applied the same problem solving to the dome. We think that the idea of treating the air coming in, if you're in a big cafetorium or a big gymnasium, should not be a problem. In other words, you don't want to bring in COVID infected air because you're in a very small space, but we don't do that. So it works out. The dome itself it'd be hard to say that it's not safer than a classroom, because we teach classes all the time. Now I see, I've seen over 1,000 kids this year in classes, and they're tight together. They're three feet apart would be a euphemism. But once again, only that class is in that class. And that's the key to making the dome work in a COVID afraid and to be really fair about it. And that's the way to do it. That way, if someone gets, what you don't want to do is have caused someone to get COVID. I mean, that would be terrible. And so what you want to do is say, if a child who was in my dome came down with COVID, he was in that same class all day for days. It's much more likely that's what happened, and we did not contribute to the risk that was already present in the school. And of course, we vaccinate our operators for sure, and they wear masks, and we have the kids wear masks in the dome. I didn't mention that, but we add the mask to the deal as well, and that's okay because most schools are wearing masks.
So Jeff had a follow-up question: which blowers came out as the best in your research? Oh, Pat's saying, let me ask my guy and I'll get back to you sooner.
Some are better than others, and B-Air you want to avoid. Air Fox is a little noisy, but really reliable. There's a couple more that are quieter than the Air Fox that we use, and I'll have to ask my guy because I don't remember on the top of my head. But I'll find out. I'll post it in the chat window later today if I found out.
I think they're rated by horsepower, aren't they? Like half horsepower, 3/4 horsepower, 1 horsepower.
Cubic, yeah, how much air they turn.
Yeah.
Cubic feet per minute.
They're not all the same.
Per minute.
Yeah.
They're
It's
not
funny
all,
how that goes.
they're not all the same. And you can really ruin a carpet blower by turning it while it's on, rotating it while it's on, and feel the bearings. And that will take a very quiet blower and turn it into a very noisy blower.
Okay.
The gyroscope effect. But yeah, no, a half horsepower blowers is good for most domes, but with the bigger domes, 3/4 is what you want, and those do have a tendency to be a little noisier.
As I say, given the kids are getting experience they can't get because of the buses, they can't get in Houston now. I think that a little noise from the fan is not it hasn't met with resistance. And you do take longer. I mean,
think-
normally we could put, 50 kids in a dome.
Mhm.
And second graders 70. We could put a lot of kids in the dome. And now we really do have to say, no, you can't do it, even though they're going to be very well spread out, which is what you want. We only can put one class. And if the class is only 15, just the class still. You can't mix classes.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. So maybe the follow-up question then is if anyone has a portable microphone unit that they use, because I know that Mike Francis, who asked that, does all live programming where he's narrating. And so having done shows myself talking over a fan where I couldn't adjust it from inside the dome, which we do now, makes a big difference. If you're talking all day, 45-minute programs, 6 of them in a day, that gets hard on the voice. So any microphone suggestions from anybody?
Oh, I found a really good microphone on Amazon, and it's got both a headset and a lavalier, and you can do 2 of them at once and plugs into your computer. They're really nice, and they were only like $69, and
Awesome.
all rechargeable. Really, really, really handy. And but as far as fan controllers, we've used some fan controllers inside. You do have to be a little careful to make sure the rating on your fan controller is good enough. We have had someone melt their fan controller.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, we use a different style fan. So cool. Well, if you can find that microphone info, Pat, I know that that would be of interest to, but definitely to me, and a lot of our customers, and probably a lot of folks here.
Yeah,
And
I'll look it up.
That'd be great.
And if you can play video as well, you could, because some of our live shows will still have video segments, which rest the voice.
Yeah. No.
So you can, because our operators can't do live shows all day. They just get wear out. And especially now when you've got to do more shows for a given number of kids. So if you make part of it, let's go visit something and you play a pre-recorded segment as well, it helps the voice.
Mhm.